Hello! Welcome!
Hello, good morning!
Wow. So, we are so delighted to see you. And mostly because Smith doesn't actually stop talking, like, ever. And so it's been a week.
I'm not going to respond.
Yeah, you're going to say something. Welcome. Please.
Hi, we've missed you.
Yeah.
We've been here the whole time. Where have you been?
So,
Excuse me.
anybody want to solve the 7-letter word?
Peter Cushing?
Yeah.
Grand Moff Tarkin?
Grand Moff Tarkin. Claude? No one wants to write it in?
It rhymes with planning.
No ideas, eh? How have you been? Folks are still coming in, so it's fine. It's like the first day back after a while. We hope that you had a fantastic Thanksgiving.
And last week.
Yeah, and last week.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. There we go. More folks coming in. It's all good. Okay. No one wants to take a stab at the word?
Good finding, by the way.
Yeah.
As a test of your screens and your eyes.
Oh.
Sandals? What? That's a good guess. All guesses are good, but Suddenlinst is...
Thank you, Danielle.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've used the S.
Yeah.
BOCI.
Rock.
Rocking. Rocks. No.
Tate McRae. Brain is fried from midterms. That's quite okay.
That's totally fair.
So this is a callback to our beginning to talk about diversity, and you've got SHANNON. SHANNON. I think I did it correctly.
Yeah. Shannon Diversity Index. Okay, so are we ready?
I'm going to get little signs to hold up to be like judgy.
No, it's good. Thank you. What else are you writing in places? Okay, here we go.
Excellent egret.
Yeah.
Elegant.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And thank you. Some of you have been putting some songs, Canadian bands, Canadian songs in the chat. So I will...
we will follow up.
Yeah, that is great.
Okay. Good.
Oh.
What's that?
Something that appeals to my 1970s and 80s brain.
Rush? Good. Have you heard of this band called Rush?
Oh, you got it.
Yeah, you gotta. Okay.
And then you got a more Neil Peart.
Yeah.
Oh, seriously. My goodness, the hip. I think the hip was last week. Last time we were here.
You have some things to say.
I do. And since you mentioned the hip, spare a moment to think about cancer research and cancer fighting people, friends, and family. This is the day that Gord died, I believe.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago. This is a little bit about our weekend. We're asking, what did you do for you? You can put it in the chat. How did you take care of yourself? One of the things that we did was this together. We had nominated a mentor and friend, Dr. Winnie Hawaks, for an honorary degree. And so we got together.
Get fancy.
And Dr. Jacobs got very fancy with that particular bit of academic regalia. Mine, I can't even keep on. I'm noticing that it's falling off my body as I'm standing there.
You look very Christmas tree-like.
Yeah, I do. I can't. That's the colors of the McGill, and I can't get it. And then we paddled on the Madawaska River, and then I found out yesterday that that little species of fly has been not discovered. I don't use the word discovered because it's known about itself for millennia. We have now documented, described it, and as a kind of real, kind of lovely thing, it's been named after me. Poor fly.
Can I say that it has more hair than you do?
It does. It has a lot more hair. And I'm not even going to say where, but you can read the description. But it talks about how it's got very hairy bits, and that's part of how you do it. Describe things. And so this one is in the great morass of undescribed diversity. This is, if you look at the title there, it says Incerta sidus, which means problematic or uncertain placement. So we know it's a species. We're still not, with these fly experts, dipterologists are still trying to figure out where it fits in the great tree of life.
It's kind of like you.
Like me.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yay. So this is, what is it? Cabomapha Alex Smithy, which I think is funny. Okay.
Oh, nighttime arboretum walking.
Wonderful.
Great artist, Robin Ottolini. New York City. Got back from Nova Scotia.
Good.
Rush is my favorite. That's very good.
That's good.
Yes, and then we've got some French Canadian ones queued up. This is good. I've got a lot.
Yeah. Les Vents du Nord.
Yeah.
Let's try it.
Marianas Trench. Yes. No.
Good. Thank you. I walked my dog.
Unexpected trip to Toronto with friends. I hope that was good, unexpected, because
and safe.
Drew a lot. That's lovely.
Just because there's lots of you here, and certainly don't want to, be a damper on things. But one of the things that we're noticing on university campuses across North America is that more folks are wearing masks, and just in order to preserve your health, you may want to consider doing that a lot more often. Things are getting pretty bad, especially at the Guelph Hospital and all of these things. So just a little heads up that you may want to take some extra precautions. Okay. Shall we?
I think we shall.
Let's shall.
Oh,
okay.
Lots of squirrel feeding.
Yeah.
Then some squirrel trauma.
Fun. Okay. Cool.
Oh. Sorry, Jacob.
We're going to dive into some stuff related to ecology, and this stuff is pretty cool, because what we're going to do is we're going to ask the question, do the same variables matter as much at different geographic scales? Okay, so we're going to play with scale of geography. We've played before with biological scales, or the biological levels of organization, right? From molecular all the way up to biomes. We're going to play with that a little bit too, but we're going to kind of flip it onto geography, and see whether or not one variable is as important as another, and we're going to kind of play around with those types of categories and things. So that's for today. But first, a reminder of the homework, fully understanding that probably no one has done it yet, and that's totally fine, but just a reminder to do it, okay? We have it all laid out in the slides for the previous class. The idea was to sort of use these diagrams to calculate these different indices to understand how the variables move, and it's kind of a neat little mystery. It'll confuse you for a minute, but hopefully you'll be able to work through some of that. And kind of plant your little flags in your brain about why these variables and formulas move in the direction that they do.
And some of you will be wondering what the right answer is, and really it's a reminder. It's the process.
Yeah.
We've given you some of these icons. You can count them. The count is not the point. The point is doing the equation so that you feel kind of how things migrate, how indices can migrate when you move across these three different examples. And
that's right. That's right. So it isn't about what the alpha diversity is in North Campus Ravine. It's about how you would change alpha diversity in North Campus Ravine. So the questions that we have laid out in the homework really help to kind of get you there. So go ahead and give it a try. And we're going to ask.
This is such a simple question, though.
We're done.
It's temperature.
No. It's not.
It often is.
Okay. Good. So what determines species composition? So not just alpha diversity, not just the number of species, but who's there, and why. That is really what we're going to be drilling down on today.
I'm smiling because our kids have been going through a knock-knock joke phase for years, and we had a lot of them this weekend. So as soon as you say who's there, I'm like, interrupting cow.
No. Okay, so we can look at things. So the geographic scales, the sort of categories that are probably relevant to talking about biodiversity are the global, regional, and local scales. So we'll just give you three categories, right, of geographic scale. And of course, this gets complex when we go into the marine systems. So we're almost pretending like marine systems don't exist, right? Because, depth has a lot, you can kind of flip it. It's kind of a three-dimensional space, whereas terrestrial is more or less two-dimensional. There are some elevational issues and things like this, but marine systems are a lot more complex in that way. So when we talk about these scales, we really just completely ignore marine systems.
But we'll try and throw them in because their differences are incredibly important.
Yeah.
The examples that we're going to kind of walk through today are terrestrial.
Yeah. So when we talk about global scale, the sort of an associated question that would be asked at a global scale might be, why doesn't Canada have the same species as Costa Rica? A regional scale question might be, why are there different types of trees in southern Ontario versus northern Ontario? And then a local scale might be, why don't all 3 campus woodlots have the same species in them? Okay, so just to try to match the question with the appropriate scale, because the answers depend on the scale. Okay?
It depends.
It depends. It always does. So here's just an example of how it might all work. But let's focus on the global scale for the moment. And what we want to do is we want to introduce to you a biological level of organization, okay, called biome. And this is a really fun one because it's just monstrous and it feels chaotic and difficult to describe and define. And you'll see us kind of stumbling through it because we know what it is, but it's just really hard to like pinpoint exactly what it is until we start to look at some of the variables that characterize a biome. So that's what we're going to do. But when we talk about biome, we're basically talking at ecosystem level, but like really big. So there's like a lot of variation that happens within a biome, right? Because there are multiple ecosystems, except for you kind of like spread the definition of ecosystem and make it a bit more vague, and then you get a biome, more or less. The spatial scale is global in that it's really big. Here we can take a look sort of more generally at some of the biomes that exist, but we're going to get sort of really precise in a second. But first, what we want to do is we want to ask you, hold on one second, using a Menti, what we want to ask is, here we go. We're going to present. Okay, so log into Menti, www.menti.com, and the code is 19523876. And what we want to ask you, again, we're using precise language. So which variables, which factors can be used to distinguish one biome from another biome? Okay, so how might we like measure something and go, okay, that's this biome, and then go, no, that's that biome? What's the factor, the variables that we can use to sort out the different biomes?
Merrick just had a comment in the chat, which I thought was amazing, and said that everything I know about biomes, the only place I've run into it so far is in Minecraft. Minecraft's definition is kind of okay.
Yeah.
It's just put it in the chat. It's fine.
It's fine. Good.
You're working with it.
Yeah.
We're watching it.
Yeah, we're watching it change. We'll share it with you in a second. Yeah.
You'll never believe what happened at number 7.
Okay.
Does it matter if it's clickbait, if it's a class where people have to be here? I mean, you don't have to be here. You can go somewhere else. But
Okay, really, really good. Okay, thank you so much. So let's take a look.
Oh, and Zed McGregor, what's funny is that the animals that can be found in Minecraft biomes are somewhat accurate. That's cool.
That's great.
Nerds get employed everywhere.
Yeah, Nerds around the world, unite! Okay, cool. You're fantastic.
Yeah.
All of you. I think this is the most accurate and one that we've ever had. So well done, you.
Remember how these word clouds are constructed? So there's a variety of words. That's the size of the cloud, and then how frequently one comes up.
Yep.
Is its size.
Yeah. I wonder why they said temperature. Well done. That's great. So these are really good.
I had a temperature joke. It was an old joke from the 70s, but it was the kids are hot tonight. Wow!
Okay. Super good. So these are great, and you're trying to think about, so like, why is this biome here, and then why is there a boundary, and why is this biome here? Like, what is it that's separating these out? So temperature, climate, precipitation, elevation, soil type, abiotic factors, terrain, so weather. Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit, but I'm really glad that you did the thinking for this. That's great.
So as we unpack it, pat yourself on the head.
Well done.
Well done.
Okay, so take a look at where you are. And if you can, open up a browser. And what we'd love for you to do is to see if you can find the exact name of your biome, where you are. Okay?
Or where you're from.
Sure. Doesn't
Throw
matter.
some, yeah.
Yeah, whatever you want. So Google the city, the town, the whatever, and then the word biome, and see what comes up if you have any information about what biome you are in or are from. And answer our polling question. And if your biome isn't represented there, totally fine, pop it in the chat.
As you're doing this poll, I now have in my head competing earworms of Tate McRae from this morning and Loverboy from just having an old brain. And so I'll try and deal with that. This is awesome. We're going to share this in a second, but it's we can see participation rocketing up. And I am fascinated. You'll never guess what happened at number 7.
What happened at number 7? Okay, cool. So I'm seeing, we'll just give you another few seconds. Cool. And then if there are many biomes, so Zoom only lets us add in these numbers per question. So pop it in the chat or right on the screen if you'd like, if your biome is not represented.
Yep, and people are doing that.
Yeah,
There's some
okay,
discussion about what's the difference between this and this.
Yeah, good.
Google says a word that da.
Wonderful.
Some of those we will try and resolve in the next kind of on-screen exercise.
Yay! Okay, so about 75% of you have clicked in. So I'll end the poll and I'll share the results with you. So most of you are finding that you're in the temperate deciduous or from there, and then followed by boreal forest, then temperate grasslands, and then some high mountain, Arctic tundra, and no cold desert. One? One.
Somehow it's 1 at 0%.
At 0%.
We can test their statistics. Could you move that onto the main screen so I can screen grab it?
We
from
see
the
you.
recording.
That,
so we see you.
We see you.
We see you.
Okay, right
there.
there. Okay, good. Thanks. Cool. So some of the things, and check this out too. Like I look at this map and I look at Madagascar and I'm like, whoa, 3 biomes in that island is bananas to me. But you can kind of like squint your eyes and tilt your head sideways and see some sort of big patterns, right? Some big things that really do help to guess which factors are going to be describing all of these things, right? Or separating them out. To me, though, that there are 3 here is really something to notice. And also take a look at New Zealand, right? Where one island is one and the other island is another. and that this pattern is kind of the same off the coast of Australia. So all sorts of really neat things to take a look at.
And I think, as we've talked about in this class before, when we talk about the three kind of components that we started in evolution, we're now in ecology, physiology is down the road. Particularly in evolution, we talked about processes, but also history, and some of that is going to come in. So we're kind of thinking about processes right now. I'm going to ask you to plot what you think some of these variables will be.
Yep.
But history remains really important.
Yep. So here are some of the names. So take a look at what you got when you Google searched versus where you are identifying from the map and whether or not it corresponds. So the boreal forest, a lot of you had boreal. So it's this sort of limey green swath that goes right across Canada here and then up and around into Russia. And then we've got
Schweden,
and we've got temperate grasslands, which is this blue part here, and we've got temperate deciduous, which is all of this part here, right? So hopefully that corresponds. The Arctic tundra, of course, is above tree line, and then some of you said where? Cold desert, one of you, yay, right here. And then this pink area over here.
Very cool.
Yeah, super good. Okay. Now.
Don't plot.
Don't plot. Hold off 1 second. Because you were largely correct in your Menti. It turns out that all of these biomes can be characterized using 2 variables. Very rarely in biology is it that simple. Really fantastic or really powerful sort of idea about what a biome is. And these are 2 factors. You were right, temperature, and then a lot of you wrote precipitation as well. And using only those 2 variables, you can characterize all of these biomes. Okay? It's amazing and an incredible piece of ecological theory that was developed. It's simple, elegant, and pretty cool. So 2 variables, temperature and precipitation. So what we can do is we can start to kind of identify space on a map, on a graph, relative to those 2 variables, right? So what we're going to do is a little exercise together. We'll ask you to do precision stamping, so just following our instructions so that you can see how it all kind of plays out, if that's okay. Right, so what we want you to do is take a look at the axes. We have precipitation on the Y, and we have temperature on the X. And they both go from low to high, okay? Low precipitation to high precipitation, low temperature, so cold to high temperature, right? Warm. What we want to do is using the red heart stamp, okay? Get your red heart stamp. Go ahead and stamp. Totally practice on the side there. Good. Yeah, great. Stamp on the graph where you would anticipate the tropical biome to be. Excellent. Now, let's get our yellow stars or our gold stars and do the boreal. This is my favorite. Okay. And then the green check marks for the savanna. And the blue question marks for the desert. And what should we do what's the last one?
X's.
X's. A red X for temperate. So cool. I love this. This is great. Okay. So we noticed some things.
So first of all, congratulate yourself. We talked about this being a major contribution to ecological theory that several different people have made, Whitaker and others. in more or less my lifetime. It's not an old bit of research at all yet. And it's elegant and powerful, and kind of you've just done it.
Well done.
Which also speaks to intuition of you as a biologist. So when someone says, well, what are you training to be? It's like, well, I want to be a biologist. It's like, you are a biologist, and you can be a better biologist. And lots of your schooling to date has tried to untrain you for being a biologist. But nascent within you is this understanding. And so well done.
Biology is about messy graphs. So you have definitely produced a messy graph, and that's fantastic. So well done. Well done. What do we notice, though? I noticed some things. I noticed some like uncertainty, disagreement. Let's change that into variation and range of data. So I noticed, for example, the desert check marks go from low all the way to high.
Non-graph land. They're just like
they're like way out there. It's great.
Whereas the tropical one is kind of like pop, 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 pop. There was not so much disagreement there.
Yeah, really, really good. Okay. I also noticed the stars are kind of like moving up in that direction. And I noticed that the X's are forming a bit of a column, right? Fantastic. We're going to have to clear, but this is fantastic because what we want to show you is kind of some folks did some stuff, basically exactly like what you've done. The only difference is they put lines around them. So here we go. We're going to clear all of the drawings, and we're going to go and show you what some folks, there we go. Okay. So, this is from low temperature to high temperature and low precipitation to high precipitation. And what you can notice is that they've really tried to like map on the biomes that we were showing you before. From tropical rainforest, you got exactly the same spot, to the temperate right in the middle, to the deserts along the bottom.
And you've got kind of three types, and this is a question that came up in the chat, is that biome map we're looking at is the most recent. It's like there are others that show some divisions like this amongst, like, between, for example, desert being tundra, temperate, or subtropical. There are some important local contexts.
Yeah, wonderful. So well done, because you just did exactly that, right? Good. So here are our different places, right? Tropical, boreal, savanna, desert, and temperate. Fantastic. And so we come back to this, and things are changing, of course, right? Especially when we're seeing these massive changes in climate and the climate crisis, right? These borders are going to change, but largely they haven't changed much over time in the past, right? So it's kind of one of the things that changes the least would be the biomes.
Yeah, it's kind of there's an inertia. The viscosity is high to biomes. As of course they change, and they will change over evolutionary time. But we're thinking principally, or at least initially, about ecology here. And so in ecological time, these are...
Yeah. I think Sam's drawing an albatross, which is amazing. Albatross! Do you know the Monty Python skit for albatross? Yeah? Okay. So that was some global stuff. Let's bring it down to regional, and we can ask, why are there different types of trees in southern versus northern Ontario? That's a kind of regional level type of a question. And we come back to this tree.
The Pelham maple.
Right.
For you down in Niagara.
And why might this tree be here? Why is it not surrounded by other trees like it? And could it be? And was it in the past? And all of those types of questions are regional level questions.
To tree or not to tree? That is the question.
And one of the big sort of driving factors at the regional level has a lot to do with dispersal, right? So less so to do with temperature and precipitation, and more so to do with the way that species disperse or not. And so we can talk about different varieties of dispersal, and different species rely on different mechanisms. Some of them rely on more than one, others just one. There's lots and lots of variation that exist in the way that species disperse, right? So if you have legs, you might up and walk away. If you don't, then you may have to rely on other means. And so here are some of the ways that plant species disperse. They can be water assisted. So you can drop your seeds into ocean currents. They can be wind assisted, so you can kind of bulk yourself up in some way, give yourself these little feather type things and fly away in the wind, or you can tumbleweed. Or they can be animal assisted, which means that you'll probably want to make little hooks to stick onto fur or feathers, so that when you come in contact with an animal, you can kind of hold on, kind of like the Glaucidia larvae do, right? Like hold on to the tissue of the fish host. Lots of seeds. I'm sure you've encountered things like burrs or other types of sticky seeds while you go for a walk. In a forested area or a prairie area. You come back with all sorts of things stuck to your clothes.
So in elucidating these patterns, lots of people have been part of documenting this, and we wanted to call attention to this particular Dr. Davis, a paleontologist and a paleoecologist. So an ecologist whose expertise spans big chunks of time, nearly evolutionary time, and that's because of how they study. And how they study is often looking at scanning electron micrographs of pollen and seeds that are extracted from cores at the bottom of lakes or bogs. Each of these pollen spores or seeds has a species-specific shape, and they're often quite beautiful, and they often change quite a bit in size. Size and dispersal capability are often very linked. Sometimes in the insect world, we think a bigger insect is one that it has more muscle, it can fly farther. In the plant and the tree community, often it is the species with the smaller things that tends to disperse much more rapidly with wind. You can see the scale difference here from 10 micrometers in the maple species to 100 micrometers, a big chunking hemlock pollen. Now, Margaret Davis is an eminent ecologist, an emeritus at her institution, but we talk about the research and the effect that they've had on ecology, while we also call attention to the fact that for her, like for many people, it is not easy to gain a foothold in an exclusionary community that academic life often is. And so in her particular story, her partner is also an academic. And yet, despite the legions of papers and mentees, students, products that academics build, she was not, various departments were not interested in hiring her, except at a kind of an insulting lower rate. And so she didn't accept that. And she fought back successfully at a time when that was unlikely, unfacilitated, and just damn hard. And the success that she's had is local, regional, and global. She is an eminent ecologist as judged by the largest society of ecologists in the world, the Entomological Society of America. And she served not only just as a member and as someone who was celebrated with awards, but I believe she was the president of the society for a long time. So,
cool.
Yeah, Dr. Davis.
Dr. Davis.
A badass.
Very badass. Okay, I'm going to clear so that we can see the map. So sorry, because your drawings today are fantastic. This is Caramel the cat. She's awesome. Okay, so one of the contributions of the types of things that Dr. Davis does and did with her students is to use the sort of pollen grains that had settled into the soil or settled into the bottoms of lakes in order to understand the dispersal of different tree species. Okay, so we can take a look based on aging of these pollen grains or the sedimentary layers in which they were found, to take a look at the way that species have changed or expanded their range over time. Okay, so this one here is maple, and this one here is hemlock. And we can start to look at all of these really cool patterns, right? So just kind of for a second, see if you can notice some differences between the dispersal history of the two species. So what do you notice that's different?
They're discussing caramel in the chat.
Yeah. Well, she's pretty special.
Yeah, her dispersal range is very small.
Yeah. She's drooling.
'Cause
So
she's happy.
what are some of the things what are some of the things that you notice between the difference between these data for the maple and the data for the hemlock?
That's a great one from Merrick. Different dispersal origins. So as the waves, as you're looking at the waves, they're kind of emanating from different parts of the continent.
Yeah, good.
Smaller pollen, eye volcans. Smaller pollen equals faster. Yeah, so you're kind of counting the rings on that.
Yeah, bigger steps, right?
Yeah.
Sort of bigger leaps. Really good. Really, really good. Yeah. Cool. It's not easy to kind of come up with these big patterns, right? And our eyes tend to focus on the exceptions once we give a big pattern. Don't allow that to happen though, right? Because exceptions are just, things that you need to focus on later to understand a bit more.
I think one of the cool things also, there's so many cool things, and this is a really elegant contribution of Dr. Davis's lab kind of to the study of ecology, particularly in a place like the North, like Europe and North America that has a glacial history, to look at rates, as you've talked about, rates and directions, and then the change in those through time. If you look at, for the right-hand trend for the hemlock, the difference in those steps underneath the Great Lakes, and then when you see those steps as they go west underneath Lake Superior and to the west of Lake Michigan, it's like, is there something else happening there?
Well, and it goes against the prevailing winds too, right? So it can speak a lot to, for example, the way in which those species are dispersed.
There's so much on it. It's amazing.
Yeah. So if the prevailing wind is going west to east, but this thing is moving east to west, then maybe it's not wind dispersed, right? Or at least maybe not there. Sorry, my chat isn't working, but you have a question? You have a question? Oh no. Keep on writing.
If you're feeling blue texting, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, blue texting, just keep on writing. We see you. Oh, not a question.
Oh.
Okay.
We still see you.
Do you have a comment? Okay. I hope. Anyway, please, we see you. Please write there if you would like. Okay.
Caramel's 15.
15 years old.
That's the question in the chat.
Okay. So lake sediments are super interesting and provide a bit of a stable record in a way that, sort of terrestrial sediment accumulation may be more heavily affected by the wind and other eroding factors in lakes. These things tend to, settle down to the bottom and then get protected by this nice blanket of water. And so those sediment histories tend to be a bit more stable than they would on terrestrial systems. Of course, it takes a bit more for those pollen grains to get there in the first place, and so there's all sorts of differences in accumulation rate, but certainly erosion would not happen nearly as quickly. Even looked through my makeable to take longer. I was still able to cover a large area. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Danielle. That's perfect. So the range itself is much bigger for maple than it is for hemlock. So well done, you. That's great. An important difference.
And thinking about how we present these graphs like this and how you've been experiencing how we write poll questions, that kind of a thing, you could think about revisit how when you prepare for this the topic test for this section of the course, we wouldn't ask you to memorize the pattern for maple or for hemlock, but we might give you recolonization graphs like that and then ask you to interpret what might you expect the pollen size to be. Would the pollen size of this map or this map, compare and contrast? So those are great ways for you to kind of make your own questions for your group, the groups and your friends that are studying with. Before you jump ahead, I believe there's a faculty member in that picture. In the flared jeans.
This is Dr. Nick Bernier, who is amazing. Take courses with him in the future. But you can say when you have one of his classes that you saw him in bell bottoms.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, local scale. So those are regional topics and things, and you're going, oh my goodness, I have no idea what to write in my notes about all of this. We're not really, like we said, we're not really concerned about like writing down definitions and notes and things. We just want you to like be in that thinking space, right? At that scale. So when we talk about local scale, we might ask, why don't all 3 campus woodlots have the same species in them? And so we're going to go back to Menti and we're going to ask you, remember we did temperature, precipitation for biomes. What factors might explain, give me a second. Yeah, I'm going to maximize this. So you start thinking about it. What factors might explain the differences in the biodiversity at the level of the different woodlots? And as soon as I can reset, there we go.
Come on, Menti.
Menti is kind of giving us some problems today.
It's the same code, is that right?
Yes, it is the same code. Now we're asking for the variables that we can use to explain the difference between North Campus Ravine and the Arboretum, for example. What variables? Yay. You're great. Okay, keep on going for a minute. Oh.
There's actually been a couple of questions about the evolution topic test when the grades are.
Oh, okay. While you're doing that, I'll tell you about general policy for any kind of major assessment that happens at the university. The university has a policy of trying to get those grades back to you within 2 weeks, basically within 10 business days. And we're doing our best. We are usually on time, sometimes a day after that, but we do our best. Yeah. So you finished it on Friday evening. The first business day was Wednesday of the next week because there was the Thanksgiving and the long, yeah. So our group is working away. And we'll get those posted to you really soon.
So it's a couple of
like
different
forever.
clocks. It feels like a while ago, but in terms of the number of business days that we've had to get onto the marking, it's less than what it feels like.
Yeah.
Soon.
Okay. There we go. Good. Okay.
I love it.
This is great. This is really, really good. So let's take a look at some of the things that you're writing here.
Somebody asked last time to make it bigger.
To make it bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. I think this is as big as it gets.
Yeah. That's bigger than it was the last time.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we can see, the only problem with doing this is that we don't have the closed captioning for, yeah. So wait, hold on. I'll make it wider like this. There.
Good catch.
Yeah. And then taller. There we go. And then we still have the closed captioning there. Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. No worries.
Awesome.
Okay. Well done, because again, you're picking exactly important variables here, focusing on things that are not necessarily temperature and precipitation. So that's really great, including human activity, soil, location, edge effects, infrastructure, human interactions, what else? Predation, water sources, foot traffic. Yeah, this is great. This is great. Perfect.
This is great. I see lots of humans, and then human as a modifier. That's great. See lots of soil. What are you thinking about with soil? That's different. Some of you who are thinking about the ground. If you're still thinking it.
Oh, okay.
Put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Or on the screen.
Yeah. Nutrients in the soil. Good. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. You're right. You're not wrong. Okay. Excellent. So basically, we've identified a whole bunch of variables that might explain the biodiversity differences in the woodlots in Ontario, in the world, right? And so what we want you to do is to take some of those variables and to see if you can just kind of organize and sort them a little bit better. with respect to the biological levels of organization, and then some of the geographic scales, just to kind of understand some big patterns, right? I mean, basically, as we are sort of in these lower levels of organization or these smaller geographic scales, a lot of things that help explain the variation that exists at that level are biological or biotic factors, right? It's not to say that abiotic factors are unimportant, but the biotic factors are really important. As we get higher up in scale, geographic scale, for example, then it's the abiotic factors that become really important. And in some respects, at least at the level of biome, biological factors or biotic factors are kind of irrelevant, right? Because it's only temperature and precipitation that explain or characterize those different biomes. So that's it. We are 3 minutes early.
Wowzers.
Amazing.
I think that's a quite an accomplishment.
Well done. Okay, so enjoy the rest of your week. We will see you on Wednesday. And thank you so much for all of your help. We will just turn off for a couple of minutes, maybe fill up on coffee, and then we'll get on to the student hour. So
yeah. Take care of yourselves. Take care of others.